This segment is brought to you by JigMasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to JigMasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
Welcome to the Paddle and Fin Podcast, the Bass Fishing for Noobs segment, where we try to improve our skills as an angler by learning new techniques or improving the ones we already know. I'm your host, Ryan Milford.
Of Bass Fishing for Noobs. I'm your host, Sean Lavery. With me is my co-host, Ryan, and we have a couple of guys on the show tonight. We're going to do a nice kind of conversation about their experiences, and we have Jason, Heath, and I just drew a blank. Who am I forgetting?
Cody.
Cody. My bad. Thank you guys for all being on the show tonight. So Ryan, what do you think? We're start off by just letting each one introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about where they're from and how they got started in fishing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome.
So, any volunteers to go first?
Sure. My name's Jason Rathbun. I live in northern Oklahoma. Started out fishing when I was probably 8 or 9. Me and my dad walked about 3 miles down a creek that's on our farm to the mouth of a flood control site's what it is, and we threw out trout lines and catfish a little bit and bobber and caught some and started from there and fished for bass at a neighborhood pond and caught a bunch of big bass topwater. The guy fed them, so they got big. He fed them dog food, so they got big there. And once I graduated high school, I didn't pick up a fishing pole for 22 years until last fall. Life got a hold of it and didn't pick up a pole.
Wow. And you just recently got into a kayak too.
I got into my kayak Wednesday was the first time I got into it. First kayak.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was excited for you when I saw that on Instagram. You got you a kayak and everything. It took long enough to finally be able to use it.
Yeah, my wife bought it for me. Actually, my wife had my father-in-law buy it for me the weekend after Christmas because it was on sale in Victoria, Texas. And it went through a whole shipping predicament for me to take 2 months to get into it.
Well, that's awesome. You're in one now.
What are you paddling?
It's a Pelican Challenger 100 angler.
Okay.
It's baby blue.
It's the exact same kayak I started in, except mine was red.
Really? Yeah. That's the only color they had left. My father-in-law was like, "Do you have a different color?" Nope, that's it.
Well, as a Kentucky fan, I would have preferred the blue, but that's just me. Yeah.
Being an Oklahoma State fan, I would have rather not had the red. I'd rather have the blue.
Right on. All right, so Heath, you want to go next?
Sure. Heath Barkley. Born and raised in Middle Tennessee, grew up in Hendersonville, just down the road from Old Hickory Lake, the Drakes Creek portion. Was within walking distance of the coves and fishing around there. And I started bass fishing in high school. I guess I was probably 15 or 16. Just got interested in it by watching guys like Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston and all those guys and watching those shows that come on. I guess it was TNN is where they came on Sunday. I guess they're also on ESPN. And there was a group of us, and we would have bank fishing tournaments on Saturday morning, and just enjoy that. Then gone off to college, went to UT, didn't even carry a fishing pole with me. After college, started working, got married, kids, and it's been probably somewhere between 20, 25 years later, you know, we've got 2 boys and that I want to teach them how to, and I'm now living in Smyrna and by Percy Priest Lake, and those are 2 totally different kind of lakes. And I'd come down here and I couldn't figure out how to fish it because I was used to fishing Old Hickory Lake where there's boat docks everywhere. Well, on Percy Priest, there's not a single boat dock anywhere. And it's just a totally different environment for me. And I was trying to fish from a bank out in parks and places like that, and I just couldn't figure it out. And so I ended up last May, we bought a couple of kayaks. We got some Jackson Bites, and I think every month from May until December, you got out at least one time in them, and you know, caught a few fish, but you know, I was lucky if I caught 1 or 2, and just trying to get back into the swing of things, and so I want to learn more so that I'll be able to pass it on to my kids.
I feel that. So, hey, that guy, we can't remember your name.
Cody, I got it.
You wrote it down. He's got it now. Well, I've been great. Didn't really fish much growing up. My dad's kind of scared of water, so didn't really have a whole lot of going on there. But about 4 years ago, I started fishing with my brother-in-law, fishing out of a boat. We fished a couple of tournaments, and excuse me. 2 years ago, I bought a really, really cheap kayak, and I fished out of it twice and hated every second of it, and took it home and swore off kayak fishing for the rest of my life. And last spring, I went out and bought a different one and absolutely fell in love with it this time. And so I fished probably 60 to 80 days last year and a lot of tournaments and stuff. So just had a really good time with it. Backtracking a little bit because I kind of jumped into that. I'm in Michigan, mid-Michigan. So we're just finally, thankfully, getting rid of all the ice. So excited to get out there and do some more fishing. I was out this weekend and be out again tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I bet you are. I know all the Illinois guys on the podcast. They, they getting stuck in home. They can't stand it. Where I've been fishing at least a little bit all through the winter.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I was so happy with Friday. I actually went and seen that the lakes were finally clearing out, so we could get out there. But
did you say what kind of kayak you got?
The kayak I have right now is a Vibe Seaghost 130.
Oh, that's right. You got the same one as me because we were talking about mountain trolling motor and stuff.
Yes, sir.
Sweet. Now I'm curious, how long have each of y'all been listening to Paddle and Fin?
I started listening to it last fall, actually probably about August, and I started at the very start when Brian had it with, what do they call him? The original. And
OG.
I listened to every single podcast because I was driving 4 hours a day going to work for a couple months. I listened to every single podcast.
I still ain't even done that yet. I went back and listened to a few that were before I started actually listening. But so you actually started listening about the time that I started this segment. Because it was in August whenever I started Bass Fishing for Noobs on Paddle and Fin.
Yeah, probably. But I didn't get to yours until like a month later after I'd listened to all the previous. I don't like starting in the middle. I have to start at the start.
I feel you. Heath?
I had known about the podcast for some time, but I had seen when you were on your own. I had it saved in my podcast on I guess whatever service I was using, and then I don't know, just searching around and saw it there, and then saying, oh wait, he must be tied in with these guys, and then you were probably I don't know, you were already a few episodes into it when I picked it up, and like, I went back and listened to yours, and honestly, yours is the one I probably is the only one I listened to. And what really brought me, drove me into yours is because you're fishing the same waters that I was, and that caught my attention when I started hearing some familiar names, and that's just where I started. I can't remember what the first episode was that I'd listened to, but yeah, I mean, I haven't really been listening that long, but I've enjoyed what I've heard so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, to hear people. First of all, I want to apologize for you having to deal with, like, back when I was doing my own podcast, because that was terrible. I go back and listen, and I'm like, oh my. I was like all nervous and didn't know what I'm talking about and all that, but yeah, that's awesome how you did that, and then we're both kind of from the same area. I work in Smyrna, and you said that's where you live, so we're right here. I know we've talked about getting together this year and doing some fishing. Yes. What about you, Cody?
I started about the same time back in August, I think, around there. I was driving back and forth to a lot of tournaments, so I had a lot of time on the road and was looking for something different to listen to. So came across your guys's, and I haven't gone quite as far back in the archives to the beginning, but you run out occasionally, so I go back and start listening to the older stuff. But
awesome,
cool.
Well, so what's some of the biggest struggles that y'all have had, with bass fishing and finding fish or catching them, or what's just some struggles that y'all just had a hard time with?
What? Go ahead, Cody.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just staying kind of positive. I have a tendency of I get half hour into a trip and not getting into anything. I'm ready to throw everything down and sell everything, sink the kayak in the lake, and go home. So it takes a lot to stay in that, But I'm getting better with it, working my way up.
So. I can hear it already when the other guys hear this episode and hear that. They're gonna be like, "That's Milford."
Yeah.
Because I had a day back in December where, like, the wind was blowing me everywhere. I couldn't get a bite and everything. So I'm like, who wants to buy some fish and stuff? I'm done. Yeah. Yeah. I had to cool off for a little bit. What was that?
I said, you'd be smarter about it than I would. Mine would just be at the bottom of the lake.
I don't know about you guys, but when I was learning, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I think you really get spoiled watching that because you watch them and they're catching fish left and right, and then when you go out, and actually do it yourself, and you don't have that same kind of action, but what you don't realize is how much of the time they cut out of that video, and definitely.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've watched videos and, like, man, they make it look so easy, and like I got confidence just watching them. Like, I'm about to go out here and slay them, and nothing.
It's a blessing and a curse to have that resource at your fingertips. It really is.
Yeah.
So, Heath, Jason, what about y'all? What's the biggest struggle?
Oh, what I've struggled with is I mentioned earlier, just trying to learn a completely different lake, a home lake, and I don't use any kind of electronics, and I just probably within really probably since May, have been able to find the navionics, so I can at least see what contours and structures look like under the water. But I've struggled with what do I throw, what do I take out. Do I take 4 rods with me, 6 rods with me, just 2? Do I take soft plastics, hard baits, spinner baits? What am I going? Do I take everything out? Do I just want to, I would like to learn just a couple new things, but then I don't want to take just 1 or 2 things and then not catch anything. And a lot of times for me, it's just finding the time. We've got 4 kids, I got a house, a job, and life, and I can't just take off every weekend and go fishing. There's things to do around the house, so that's always a struggle just to find the time.
Yeah, in Percy Priest, it's a really pressured lake too. There's a lot of boaters out there, and even in like the smaller areas like Stewart's Creek, boaters are coming back up in there in like 2 or 3 foot of water. They're coming right up in there. So yeah, I've struggled there too. Jason?
Yeah, I don't have a struggle with positivity because anytime I get to go fishing, I mean, good Lord's letting me go fishing, so I don't have a problem
positive.
with that. Well, don't get me wrong, I get frustrated, but I stop and I think about it. I'm like, hey, I'm fishing and I'm not doing anything else at the time. So, but my struggle last year was Mother Nature because in Oklahoma we had all that flooding and rain and just horrible weather in late April and May of last year, and it flooded everything. And I started trying to fish in July in the heat of the summer. Fish weren't biting. You couldn't hardly. I mean, I went out the first 5 or 6 times. I took my son with me, and between the two of us, I think we caught 2, 3 fish the first 5 or 6 times we went fishing, and you just couldn't catch them. It was and I talked to the game wardens and everything else, and they were like, it's just horrible everywhere fishing wise, that nobody was catching anything. So I found something that worked, and that's when I started catching them when it started cooling off.
Man, I can relate to all those struggles. The mental game, trying to break down a new body of water with no electronics, dealing with Mother Nature and all that. Man, I've been there in all those situations, so I can feel you on all that.
Same here, man. I mean, it's the time thing too, and I know what you mean. When you only have a certain amount of time, and your time's limited, you want to go out there and throw something. It doesn't really afford you a lot of time to try new stuff because you want to catch stuff, but you also want to, pick up new things. So it makes it tough.
I think that's probably one of my biggest struggles I've had is that time on the water, kind of like what Heath was saying. I'm married, 2 kids. I don't have a whole lot of time to go out there. I go out there like one day every other week. So when I'm out there, I'm not really trying too much new stuff. Whatever I want to try, what I know, and if it don't work, I get frustrated and yeah. So on the other end of that, what's some big accomplishments that y'all have made?
Fishing again after 22 years.
What brought you back? What made you pick up the rod again?
To be honest with you, a podcast. The back last year doing the same driving that I was telling you about that I found the podcast on. I was listening to a podcast called Bass Fishing Dads. And
I like that one.
I haven't listened to them since I found Paddle and Fin, but I like their podcast. And just driving back and forth, listening to fishing all the time, I was like, one day I looked at my wife and I was like, we're not doing anything. You want to go fishing? So we went out to one of the little local lakes and we sat there and we just wet some lines and we didn't catch anything. We just had fun fishing. And from there, I started going by myself and with my boys, and it just went from there.
Cool.
Heath, Cody,
any big accomplishments?
Well, just getting out. I actually got my wife's blessing to purchase these kayaks. Of course, one of them's hers, but that was a big start because it had been a few years ago and I'd seen Chad Hoover fishing out of a kayak, and it was probably one of his early TV shows. I don't know if it was called Not Right or Not Right Outdoors or something like that. And that was back when he owned the Hook One stores. And, that got me interested, but, put some money aside and something would happen. Put some money aside, something would happen. And, this just last year, all these kayaks were coming out that were like sub $1,000, but, made by premium kayak builders. And, the time just seemed right. We had the money and just pulled the trigger on them, and have enjoyed it. I got, to be there when my oldest boy, he caught his first largemouth bass. He was just over there on his own throwing a little, like, he calls them swim shads. They're like little that have the hook already embedded in them, and I don't even think he knew what he was doing. He just threw it to a lucky spot and got one, and and that was thrilling. He was excited about it, and I was happy for him. And that's a big accomplishment. I mean, the largest fish I ever caught was a 4.5-pound largemouth when I was 16 years old, and that's been 30 years ago. I would love to catch just that, but if I can see my boys catching a fish, that's just as important. And that's, I want to help them to be able to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. Like back in the summer, we went to a campground. They had a little catch and release pond, and my wife and the kids and my stepdad, they're all fishing for like bluegill and stuff. And I didn't really do a whole lot of fishing. I was doing more taking the fish off the hooks and putting worms on them for them and everything. My wife's like, "Why ain't you fishing?" I'm like, I'm just helping y'all out so y'all can have a good time. Which I had my kayak with me, and there's like a lake across the street from the campground. So, I went and hit that one day without them. So, Cody, what's a big accomplishment that you've made?
Well, I qualified for the national championship through KVF this past year. That was a grind. So that was kind of my big thing that I was striving for last year and managed to somehow pull out. I think they just kind of felt bad for me, so they gave me the qualifying to jump up. But, I'll take it because I'm desperate. It took me towards the end of the year. Actually, it was the second from last tournament I was in, but I actually did manage to catch a limit in a tournament, which was a huge deal for me because I don't generally do that. I do enough to get by, and that's about it. So that was kind of cool for me. But yeah. Other than that, I caught a new PB last year, but it wasn't anything crazy. So.
What was it?
21 and a half.
So. Nice.
That's largemouth or smallmouth?
Largemouth. Yep.
Was it pushing close to 6 or somewhere around 6?
I didn't have a scale on me at that point, to be honest with you, so I could not tell you. I could take a wild guess at it, but it wouldn't be right. So
it's good fish regardless.
Yep. But I was happy about it.
So how do you feel about the national championship being moved now?
Oh, I'm not exactly thrilled. I had everything worked out. We had an Airbnb and was going to go down there for 10 days and hang out and fish. And now I have to fight with my jury duty because they have me scheduled for the national dates for jury duty. And it was after they rescheduled it because they had me scheduled for the first time that nationals was scheduled for. So
sounds like they have something against fishing.
Yeah, jerks. But
that's funny that you said that because I've been doing jury duty as well, and they just added another date for us that we have to come in, and it's supposed to be in late May. Well, I was supposed to be going on a Gatlinburg trip with my family to that, and they said, "Oh, we'll get you exempt from it." Well, now the Gatlinburg trip has been canceled because of all this coronavirus and everything going on. So, yeah.
And I was summoned
I'll give it to you.
jury duty also.
Man, everybody's getting jury duty all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nah, don't say that.
You're next, Heath.
You know,
No.
I actually didn't mind it because, you know, as long as I'm there to at least 10:30, I don't have to go to work and I get paid for the full day. But my work pays me. Yeah, so I'm like, keep me here till at least 10:30, and I'm good. Anything before that, I still got to go to work, but I still get paid for the time I was there. So, pretty good deal for me. What kind of lures or technique have y'all kind of drawn towards? Like, what's become like your favorite, your go-tos?
Jigs.
Jigs. You caught that PB on a jig.
Yep.
I caught the jig fever, huh?
The second or third fish I caught off a jig last fall was 19.5. I call that my PB, but that's my 22 years later PB. But it was just off a Archie jig, green pumpkin with green pumpkin crawl trailer on the back of it, and it wasn't even a trailer; it was a full creature. Plastic on the back of it. It looked huge and funky, but they were destroying it that day. But yeah.
Awesome.
I have not settled down on a favorite method. I guess a rattle trap is my favorite because that's what I caught that big one on when I was 16. I say big one; it was big. It's big to me, but that's what I caught it on. And I mean, I can tell it was a rattle trap, 1/2 ounce, and the Tennessee silver shad. And you know, it's probably something I'll never forget. But you know, I still carry rattle traps with me today, and you know, I'll always have one. So that's probably my favorite kind of go. So yeah.
I was gonna say that bait probably hasn't changed much since then.
No, it hasn't. No, I mean, a lot of things have changed. Like when I started trying to get back into it, you know, I saw a chatterbait for the first time. I was like, what's a chatterbait? What's it got that ugly looking blade on the front? What's that thing? couldn't even tell you where I was supposed to tie it on it.
Hey, I've been,
you know, they're like the hottest thing.
I've been bass fishing for like 6 or 7 years now, and I'd never heard of a chatterbait till last year, 2019. So, but no, I was gonna ask you, did you end up going and fishing that KBFTN event, that rattle trap only tournament?
I didn't. Life happened. Something got in the way, and I wasn't able to make it.
I hear you. Yeah, I know. I think I saw you were talking on there, interested in it. I was interested in it, even though I've never caught a fish off a rattle trap. But I was like, I just want to go just to do it. And like, I think it was like 1 or 2 nights before. I was like, what am I doing? Why do I want to go do this when I have no idea how to catch a fish with this thing? So I didn't end up going. And I think I actually ended up going fishing the day after. I think that's when I caught that one that I think was about 4.5 pounds out in Williamsport. But
the boat.
Yeah. When me and my dad and my buddy went out on the boat.
Yeah.
Cody, what's been your go-to?
Well, I learned on the weightless Senko, so that's kind of my confidence go-to when everything goes south. But if I could, I'd throw a buzzbait year-round. I love throwing a buzzbait. It's just so much fun to watch that blow up. But
is there? Yeah, I've never really used a buzzbait. I'm, with JigMasters being a sponsor of the show, I've got a couple of them on their way to me to try them out. Is there a big difference in that and like the Whopper Plopper? Because I know y'all know, I love the Whopper Plopper. So, is there a big difference in that and like the action or the way they hit it and all that?
Well, I don't have a whole lot of experience with the Whopper Plopper. I just started throwing a little bit there at the end of last year, But I know the waffle popper, you can kind of stop it and let it sit there, whereas the buzzbait, you got to keep it moving, keep it up on plane, otherwise you're gonna get down into the gunk and you'd be done. But like I said, I don't have a whole lot of experience with as I blank out completely on the name.
What, waffle popper?
The waffle popper. Thank you. I got to write it down, engrave it.
Just
But
like
yeah,
Sean
the
has to do your name.
Hey, I got
Exactly.
it.
I would say that you, with a buzzbait, you probably need to wait until you feel the fish on it before you try to set the hook, because you're just dealing with a single hook, or you may have a treble. Whereas with a waffle popper, you got 2 treble hooks, and it's more easily going to hook it on. It's going to hook itself. But with a buzzbait, sometimes you're going to see that blow up, and you might set the hook before the fish has even got it. You just pulling on the blow up, and you're gonna miss it.
Yeah.
See,
And a buzzbait's clanky.
One lucky
clanky
thing
and squeaky.
for me,
Yep.
One lucky thing for me is I have terrible reaction time. So, where most people would probably go ahead and set the hook and miss it, I'm like a second or two behind everybody with setting the hook, so it's going to be making perfect timing,
There you go.
I threw a buzzbait when I was first starting to learn, and I don't know if I was doing it correctly at all, but I had no luck on it, so I bailed on it pretty quick. But now that I kind of know what I'm doing a little better, I'm planning to pick that up again.
Throw it over the top of some shallow grass.
Yep.
Juan, the guy we had on a few times ago, he was showing me a counter-rotating buzzbait. It actually has 2 different blades, and they rotate in opposite directions. And he was saying those work good for smallies in the river. So I bought one. I just haven't thrown it yet.
Is that one? It's like double side by side, or is the one where one's inside the other one?
No, this one they're stacked right behind each other, but the
Okay.
blade pitch is different on each one. So one spins one way and the other spins right behind it the other direction. So.
Right. I was gonna say Jay Randall makes the type. I believe one's inside the other, and I guess one spins one way. I don't know, but yeah, I saw those at Dale Hollow. I thought they were pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw those too.
So, what's been y'all's favorite episode of Paddle and Pin so far? Like,
I'll answer that one. Bill Schultz.
Yeah.
Is a guy keeps count of every fish he catches.
Yeah, Bill Schultz. Yeah.
Smallmouth. I think he's a smallmouth guy, and then this last guy that you just had on, Coomer.
Steve Coomer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was good because they're kind of old school guys. And that's what I really like to listen to, watch. Here in Tennessee, we've got someone called Joey Monteleone, and he's been in for decades, and he paddles a kayak, and he's on a little radio program here on AM radio every morning for like a little 10-minute. Tennessee Wild Side on TV, on public TV, and he's just a simple, doesn't use electronics. He's out there catching fish on skinny, and that's the kind of when I read something, I'll read something by these guys who've been doing it for a long time, and you don't know their names. They don't usually have big YouTube channels. I even gone back and like stuff like Charlie Brewer, the guy who invented the slider, and a little bit that you can get from his company. And so I'm reading it, and that's the when you had guys like Bill and because they're not talking about the big fancy stuff. I think Bill Schultz was talking about fishing with just a plain old curly tail grub, and a lot of people would that's not flashy or anything. It's not a chatterbait. It's not a walleye. It's just a curly tail grub on a quarter ounce, and he's just smashing it with it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Joey. I've actually thought about trying to get him on here before. I might go ahead and reach out to him. He's got a lot of good info, and I follow him on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you should.
Might have to do that after we're done recording here. So, Jason, Cody, what's been some of y'all's favorite episodes?
I'll second him on the Bill Schultz episode. That one was really good. And then I really enjoyed listening to my slumps episode with Schiller. That was a pretty good one, trying to help me with my mental problems. So.
If y'all don't have to pick just Bass Fishing for Noobs episodes, I just meant in general. But y'all can pick them though. I feel pretty flat.
Well, to be honest, I pretty much only listen to this podcast now and some of the OG show. I try to listen to both of those all the time, but my favorites would be anything with Cody Jennings from JigMasters. Imagine that. My favorite lure now is a jig. And I like the Bill Schultz one too. That kind of gave me an idea of getting a notebook, which I have right here beside me, that I want to start keeping track of how many I keep. I mean, he keeps track of them in his head, how many he catches every year. I'm going to have to write them down, but I'm not going to have near as many as he does.
Well, instead of, writing them down, what you could do is, Sean, I don't know. I haven't checked out the OG show yet.
Yeah, Brian mentioned.
Okay. I it's too late. We have a new sponsor of the podcast. The Angler app is now sponsoring the podcast, and so you need to get one of those bullseyes. That way, when you catch a fish, have it just on your hat, click it, and it records all that information. I haven't messed with it yet myself, but Sean has. You like punch in the size of your fish and everything manually, and everything else is recorded.
Yep. Yep. You can put in which lure you use and that kind of stuff. But all of the weather, the location, all of that's stored automatically just by pushing the button. So.
Yeah, I've got it. I use it. I've used it a few times. I ain't caught very many fish with it, but usually what I'll do is, I've got a hog trough that I carry with me, and just so I can keep track of the size of the fish, so I'll take it with the hog, fish on the hog trough, and then just record the information later. But yeah, you can put your rods in, your lures in, what kayak you've got, and the water flow, the air temperature, all that stuff is added in later. I mean, it's neat because before I had it, taken some pictures, and then after one of their updates, it asked me if I wanted to go back through and try to record some trips based on the pictures that I had, and it did. Now it didn't follow the curve of the river, but it went back and created a trip and plotted where I had caught those fish based on the geotags of the pictures.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That's neat.
I've been wanting one for a while. I just hadn't shoved out the money for it, but so I'm excited to have them on now and get to try it out.
My problem was always that I got so excited to catch the fish that I'd forget to push the button.
That's probably going to be me a few times. I ain't going to lie. So, let's say outside of the podcast, what's some of the best advice that y'all feel like's been told to you by anybody? Somebody at a boat ramp, or a relative, or a fishing buddy, or whoever. Just a piece of advice that's really you feel like it's helped you out.
Don't be afraid to try new tactics. Try new baits out. Just try different things. You're not going to do it wrong. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? You lose a bait, But ask questions. Pretty much anybody I've met, I don't know about where you guys are, but up here, anybody I meet on the lake, I can ask them a question, and most of the time they're going to help me out. You know, whether it's, hey, what are you catching them on? You know, deep, shallow, whatever. You know, everybody's really friendly most of the time you get out on the water, especially the kayak guys. There's something about being in a kayak. It's kind of, you know, the brotherhood, and people are willing to help out. So, you know, yeah.
Sweet.
I'd say to just slow down and enjoy your time on the water. You know, it's Jason said earlier, it's, you know, you're out there on the water to fish. You're not working. You're not, you know, doing work or housework. You're fishing. Just enjoy your time and relax and slow down. That's probably, you know, been, you know, a struggle I have is trying to get to the next thing and not slowing down, but just slow down.
That's definitely good advice.
Yeah, and I don't know where I heard it, but I'd have to say the best piece of advice I was told was to get on the water, get off the bank, and get on the water. I think I fished off of a boat one time, and that was striper fishing on Lake Texoma 15 years ago. I forgot about that trip, but that was stripers. I don't consider that bass fishing to me. But
I'd still like to go do it sometime. It looks like fun. That's a big old fish.
I was the only one out of 6 people that did not even get a bite, so I don't even count it. Yeah. My niece and nephew pretty much caught the limit for everybody. Wow. But yeah, it's get on the water, because you get off the bank, it opens up so much more fishing area like that. The pictures that you saw on Instagram the other day, Ryan, that was the same spot that I caught my PB on. And I caught those fish, one of them in the same spot, and 2 of them that I caught in a spot that I couldn't even see from the bank. I mean, I didn't even know that body of water went back that far. So get on the water, you'll find stuff you never knew existed.
Yeah, I'm not a big bank fisherman myself. I will bank fish if, you know, that it comes down to it, but I love being out on a kayak, and, you know, if I have to, a boat, I'll go out there. But I just love being out there where you can get around 2 different spots and stuff. So I think it's really cool. Man, just seeing how excited you are about getting a kayak, you know, you know, it made me feel good for you, you know. And,
yeah.
You know, I watched your last YouTube video, because you got a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And your maiden voyage in your kayak, and I actually had a piece of advice for you that I figured out myself this winter. You know, with colder water and stuff, I went out and I went to Walmart, bought a $14 pair of rubber boots, and been wearing those out with the colder water. I saw you were in tennis shoes, and you were like having to like scoot to get out there.
Yeah.
Well, with those rubber boots, they're waterproof, so you can walk out there in, you know, 6 inches of water and not have to worry about anything. Just get in there and start paddling. So yeah, I was going to suggest that to you. You know, probably make it a little easier getting in and out of the kayak.
Yeah, I meant to actually that day it was 73 degrees, and I meant to wear my muck boots, but those things, I would have been sweating like crazy if I would have been in those.
Awesome. So, y'all got plans of fishing the Noob tournament we're trying to put together?
I would like to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, see what you got coming up.
I'm game for sure.
Awesome.
Is it going to be like a month-long tournament, or?
Yeah. It'll be a month-long tournament. Still working out all the details about it. But I was hoping all y'all would be planning on fishing it, because all 3 of y'all are getting y'all's entry fees paid by Paddle and Fin into the first monthly tournament.
Nice.
Awesome.
Sweet. Thank you.
That is sweet.
Yeah, I didn't tell y'all that ahead of time. I wanted to get the surprise. You know, y'all could act a little more excited about it. No, I'm just playing. Okay.
I got a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah, jump up and down. Yeah.
But no, I figured that'd be something cool to do for y'all for taking the time out of y'all's night and coming in here and talking to us and sharing, y'all's experience with getting into fishing and everything. I think it's cool to talk to other like-minded people that, I've talked to several anglers that, are really good anglers, very experienced kayakers and all that. So it's cool to talk to other people that are still, kind of new to the kayaking thing, still, trying to catch on to the fish thing, all that. So, yeah.
Is there anything you guys are looking for that ideas you have, stuff you'd like to hear, or people you'd like us to talk to?
Actually, Ryan, I've kind of been meaning to mention it to you, but you ought to try to message Greg Blanchard out in California. I think he'd be pretty cool to get on.
Yes.
I've thought about it. I feel like that's going to be a hard one to get, but
I'll reach out.
Just
really receptive talking to people, so
really?
You might want to reach out to him. Yeah. The other podcast that I'm affiliated with, we are actually going to be talking to him here at some point this summer. He's just really busy, so it's just working the schedule part out. But other than that, he's a really nice guy.
Do you have a podcast?
I don't have a podcast, but the tournament series that I'm helping to run this year, we run a podcast on Tuesday nights, Topwater Live. Shameless plug. But look us up. We have, 60-something tournaments running in Michigan this year. So we got quite a few one time.
That's cool. Well, I might be able to get to him pretty easy. If I reach out to Obedy Williams first, maybe he'll hook me up with him. He's part of the Dark Horse crew, isn't he?
Yep.
I think so. Yep.
Yes, he is. Yep.
If I was going to suggest somebody, if you could get Ned Cady, namesake for the Ned rig. I don't know.
Oh man.
I know he's done interviews. I don't know how he is on podcasts or technological advanced he is. I mean, if you read any interviews that he's done, he's still using the same equipment he was using 20 years ago. If anyone saw him fishing a Ned rig today, that it wouldn't look like anything what they would be fishing. He's using a 5.5 foot light action rod with, one of the Zebco Cardinal reels that, are 30 years old or older. Mm-hmm. But he's just an interesting guy, and he'll never take credit for the name of the bait rig. He'll always call it, Midwest Finesse. But I think it would be, I think he'd be a great interview to have.
I think I heard, I think I might have heard him on another podcast, because I specifically remember an episode just about podcasts. So that might be a pretty good one too. Yeah.
All right. Duly noted.
All right. Sean, you got any more questions for the guys here?
Not that I can think of, man. I think we covered a bunch of stuff tonight, so.
Any of y'all got any questions for us or each other, or anything you want to mention or anything?
Or any people you want to plug, or?
Thank my wife, because she's supported me throughout all of this craziness and hasn't complained too loudly when I spend way too much money on fishing gear. And then there's a tackle shop up here, Mainstream Tackle out of Galesburg, that I'm affiliated with this year. I'm on their fishing team. So, shout out to them. Go see Matt if you're looking for a Vibe kayak. He's the only guy in Michigan who sells them. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Outside of that, that's about it.
Cool.
Cody, you want to shout out any social media or anything?
Let me
follow you.
Yep, on Facebook, just Cody Hart, Hart, and then my Instagram is Heart Attack Fishing, all one word. And there's not a whole lot posted on the Instagram yet. I just started that a couple weeks ago, but it'll be ramping up here with the weather warming up. So look me up.
Jason, Heath, got any sponsors or social media y'all want to shout out? Or shout out wives? Yeah.
Yeah, I can shout out my wife for letting me do it. Go ahead.
Well,
Dad.
I was just gonna.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, just thank the good Lord above for the opportunity to be able to get out and go fishing. Thank about the family for allowing me to get away, and sponsors. Well, you got to be good at something before you get sponsored. So.
Hey, I may not have any personal sponsors, but I've got sponsors on this podcast that love me. Okay, so I'm not good at fishing. So.
Yeah.
But do you want to plug your social media or anything where somebody can come follow you if they want to?
I've got a little fishing. There ain't much there, but you're welcome to follow it.
Cool.
Jason?
Yeah, like everybody else is saying, thank the good Lord for letting me go do it and enjoy it and be patient while I'm out there, and thank the wife for letting me do it. And look me up on Five Lobes Fishing on YouTube. I've got 7 or 8 videos up now, and it's also Five Lobes Fishing on Instagram also.
Cool. I will definitely add that one.
Yeah. Need all the crappers I can get.
And while y'all are over there on YouTube, checking him out, make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the Paddle and Fin YouTube. The video portion of this plus all the other episodes will be on there. We do like some, Brad Hicks does a lot of review videos and stuff for that, and yeah, so we're trying to grow that a little bit. Sean, you got any final words before we close it out?
I think they can also, didn't they say they're going to start featuring us on the Angler site too, as part of that deal eventually. So that should open up some listeners as well.
Yeah.
So you can check us out there too.
Yeah, I'm not sure of all the details of that just yet. This is still kind of new to us, but yeah, we'll keep everybody posted on that. But what we should have done? We should have had these guys all come up with a new outro for us. So and then pick the best one. Me and Sean have kind of had some talks off air, and I was like, man, we really got to change that. Ever since you said it sounds like the presidential candidate, we got to change it.
I have a new one to run by you sometime, but we don't have to do it on the air.
No. Do it now. You
want to hear it?
All
right. Let me think of what I was going to say. All right. All right.
Just came up with this one.
All right. So no. It was we bring you the knowledge, the tips, the tricks, and the tips to help you rip some lips.
I like that.
Nice. That's good.
All right. Well, once again, appreciate all of y'all coming on here. Appreciate everybody listening, and have a good week. Stay coronavirus free.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah.
Peace, guys.
Later.
See ya.
Go check out the website, guys. paddle_and_fin.com. Also check out YouTube. youtube.com/paddleandfin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're doing giveaways, announcements, things like that at Facebook and Instagram at paddleandfin. Shout out to our show supporters, Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayak, Hammered Lures, Fish Mob Lures, TRC Covers, Ketch Products, Go to catchproducts.com. You can put the paddle and fin logo right on your catch board. Don't forget to go over and pick up your JigMasters Jigs. Use promo code PNF20 and save 20% today. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps grow the audience, helps others find our podcast. So please drop a 5-star rating in on the podcast platform you're listening on. Don't forget about the recycled plastics program, you guys. Take your used plastic baits, put them in an envelope, mail them to the address in the show notes. Our man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures melts those down, makes new baits, and donates them to various chapters of Heroes on the Water.